Hey, what you say, food family? Mike here, and welcome back to the channel for another great culinary adventure. Today we're kicking off summer barbecue season, firing up the smoker, and making some ribs. But not just any ribs, we're doing some sweet and spicy bourbon barbecue ribs. I don't know about you, but my mouth's watering already. Ain't nothing to it but just to do it. Let's get cooking. Alright folks, as you can see here today, I'm working with a couple racks of St. Louis style spare ribs. And these are pretty much good to go right out of the packaging. There's a couple things I like to trim up off the back side though. And as you can see here, I'll lift these up. There's this extra flap of meat that runs along the back here. We're going to go ahead and trim that off. Now you can save that for next time you make sausage, just grind it up, or go ahead and throw it in the smoker today with the ribs. It'll just be done a whole lot earlier. You don't want to leave it on there because it'll just burn, because it'll be done way sooner than your ribs. Other than that, we're going to remove this membrane off the back side here on both of these racks. We'll get them cleaned up and move on to put on the rub. As you saw there in that close-up, we got the extra flap of meat cut off and that membrane removed from the back of the ribs. Next thing we're going to do is apply our rub. Now I'm not going to do a wet mustard coat first and then put my dry rub on. I'm just going straight dry rub. Today I'm doing a sweet and spicy rub. It's my own. I'll put a link to that in the description below. Use whatever you like. So I'm just going to go ahead and start on the back side of these ribs here and just put a liberal coat on. Now this rub I'm using today, like I said, it's my own. It's got some brown sugar, carbonado sugar, it just doesn't burn as much, garlic, onion, cayenne, hot Calabrian chili powder. It's a little bit of everything. So if that sounds interesting to you, check out the link. Otherwise, let's just get these rubbed up here and on to the smoker. Okay, so our ribs got that dry rub applied. I went ahead and went extra heavy because I know some will come off. Now I'm going to let this sit for a few minutes while I get the smoker ready, and the natural juices of that pork, the salt and everything in the rub will start to bring those out, and that'll actually help adhere that rub. Otherwise you can do the mustard technique like a lot of people try. Other than that, give me a few minutes, I'll get the smoker set up and we'll see you outside. Alright, as you see here, I got my ribs loaded up in the smoker, about halfway up. It doesn't really matter a whole lot, but I'm going halfway today. And then down below, I've got a tray full of apple juice and apple cider vinegar. Now I'm also running some applewood chips over just a competition blend of normal pellets today, so you can use whatever you like. Any sort of applewood usually works best. Other than that, we're going to run the smoker between 225 to 250, and we'll check on these in about an hour and a half, and then I'm just going to rotate them around. Should be about 2.5 to 3 hours total. We want to make sure we get up between 150 and 160 degrees before we wrap them. Alright, it's been about 2.5 hours. I probed these just a minute ago. They're sitting at 150, 155 degrees, so we're going to go ahead and pull them out and bring them inside and start wrapping them. There, as you just saw there, our ribs came up to temperature in about 2.5 hours, up to that 150, 155 degree range. So I brought them inside. Now what we're going to do is wrap them. So I'm going to set these forward here. Now there's a couple things I like to do in my wrap. Take a stick of butter, just cut that in half, and then we'll lay that down right here in the middle. Grab some brown sugar. A couple of handfuls, nothing important. And I'm going to finish off with some agave syrup. Now you can use honey, hot honey. Depends, you know, what your profile will go, but rub's a little more on the spicy side, so more with this agave and brown sugar to kind of cool things back down, just so it makes that sweet heat rib in the ultimate end there. So I'm gonna grab my tongs, and what we're gonna do is grab a rack of ribs, and we'll lay a meat side down on top of that we just made there, and simply wrap them up. And then we'll just do that for both racks of our ribs. And then we'll put them back in the smoker for 2 more hours. Same temperature, that 225 to 250 degrees. Alright folks, I got the ribs out of the smoker and unwrapped. We drained off those extra butter and melted brown sugar juices that have flavored this meat nicely over the past 2.5 hours it took. Our temperature probe finally hit that mid 195, 198 degree mark. We ultimately want to finish up around 200 for these St. Louis style spare ribs. Now if you're cooking baby back ribs, they may not take as long. You just got to go by temperature, you can't go by time. So with that being said, we got everything ready here. We'll coat these things with this bourbon barbecue sauce, which will be linked in the description below. You can use whatever you like, but I said today I'm making sweet and spicy bourbon barbecue ribs, so that's what I'll be using. Alright folks, as you just saw, both of these racks of ribs give a nice thick coating of that bourbon barbecue sauce, so delicious in itself on here. We're going to put this back out in the smoker, same temperature, 225, 250 degrees for another 30, 45 minutes or so until this sauce sets up. And we'll come back, give it a taste test, and see how we did. Alright folks, we put these ribs back in the smoker for 45 minutes once we glaze them with that bourbon barbecue sauce, nice thick coating, so that flavor can enhance that sweet and spicy dry rib we started out with and those smoky flavors just from the process itself. So there's one thing left to do, and that's slice into them, give it a taste test, and see how we did. And of course, there's only one way to eat ribs, and that's with your hands and your fingers. They're messy, they're sloppy, and nothing goes better than that than using a big ass knife, like this girl, to slice that rib off and give it a taste test. Okay, we use that big ass knife to slice this rib. Looking pretty dang good. Let's give it a taste test and see how we did. Now hopefully you can see here, I actually can bite into the rib. It doesn't completely fall off the bone and make a mess. You can bite down to the bone, the meat comes off, but it also stays intact. If these smoked, sweet and spicy bourbon barbecue ribs look good to you today, be sure to like and subscribe for more great content. Tell me how I did, leave a comment below. Other than that, Mike here signing off, and until next time, just keep cooking. I don't have any sauce on my face, do I? No? Good? Thanks. Alright folks, we put those ribs back in the smoker for about 45 minutes with that bourbon barbecue sauce so that glaze could really take hold and flavor these ribs. So there's one thing left to do, and let's give it a taste test to see how we did. But now even though I've let these set and rest for 15-20 minutes, they're still kind of warm. You may even call them smoking hot. Oh, cue the dad joke drum roll.